Hey you guys, welcome back to Southern Latitudes. It's actually the evening of the next day after you saw me put the garden in, and I definitely needed to take the morning off. I was moving slow, not in pain or anything, just moving slow, just doing a little recuperating. So I don't know if this is something that would definitely interest you guys, but I'm going through some planning stages. And I have my other book out. I have my notes that my intentions to put stuff in here. We'll see if we go with it or not. But thought maybe you might enjoy seeing the process and kind of maybe there's something you can pick up in my thoughts that might help you with making your decisions if you're making a fall garden or even a spring garden in the upcoming years. So first thing that you'll notice that I chose to put my lines in this way. So I'm actually going to come from this direction. This is north, west, east, south. And so my sun is going to start here and go all the way over, right? Basic children's weather classes, in elementary school. But so the sun's going to come over here, and there's two thinkings about this. Sometimes you can do like a trellis or something that way. That way the sun hits one side and goes all the way to the other side. And that's nice. That's okay. In fact, that's what we have going in the salsa garden. But over here, this garden is always run in sort of a east to west or west to east pattern. And I really like that too. And this year in particular, we have nothing but short crops. I'm not real worried because I've got broccoli, I've got cauliflower, I've got cabbage, I have bunching onions, a little bit of other onions. Maybe I'll have some Brussels. I'm thinking about putting the Brussels over that way perhaps. Celery, I'm thinking in this corner-ish. Believe it or not, my celery last year almost came close to 3 feet high. So that's actually considered pretty tall for what I want to put in this garden compared to the other things around here. I was thinking of putting a little bit of Swiss chard in here, and that's also going to be short. So the first thing you'll want to do is look at your landscape and see if you can do something that's more of a vertical or horizontal according to which way the sun hits. Now, it may not matter. You may have full sun. This is pretty much full sun, and once we get rid of the chicken coop behind us this winter, it'll be full sun too. So this garden, it doesn't seem to influence my decision as much. It really doesn't matter too much in my salsa garden either. It may, influence my decisions up there, but we just ran the row lines the way that was most convenient for irrigation. That might be something that affects your decision as well. The second thing that affects my decision is row spacing. You want to decide what you're going to do. Is this going to be a plot that only does some things? Corn, you may be doing corn, you may have more of a market garden, you may have something more like permaculture like this. The pineapples have gone crazy. They used to sit right up against the shed, and they've kind of creeped out, and I will need to address these. These are the oldest ones down here. I think I'm just going to take this one out and pop it in another part of the yard because I don't want that encroaching. The third thing you may want to consider in your garden, you'll definitely want to know the height of all the vegetables that you're growing. Have in mind, the list of the things. And in the northern hemisphere, our sun usually comes from the south. It never goes like past where I am. Even in Florida, even though we're quite far in the lower parts of the northern latitudes, the sun never goes like on this side of my house. It just always stays from here to here. It may go a little lower in the sky, it may go a little higher, but it never crosses over, being in the northern hemisphere. So with that in mind, you're going to want your shortest plants down here and your tallest ones here. Now, if you're with me from last year, I had 3 rows right here in the middle of tomatoes, and I had no idea they were going to do so fantastic, and they grew easily over my head, 6 feet tall. And then I had over here little bitty Brussels and 4 rows of onions. What a mess. This never got light on this whole half of the garden. I made a major boo-boo, and I actually knew better than to do that, but I just really, I don't know, I thought the tomatoes would stay lower at least through the fall and then get higher in the spring. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But I was totally wrong. It went all the way up to 6 feet and then some. Got frost burnt at least 3 times through the winter. And then we had a lot of rain, lost some, came back. You know, it was all over the map, but my point is that it was really high. And what a mistake, because it shaded out everything on the right side of the garden, or on the north side of the garden, if you will. So that is point number 3. You better consider that. Companion planting. That's a big thing I see come up a lot of times in discussion about, what do you think, companion this, companion that. I will tell you that I am just not a big, I don't care. Like, if you really want to go knock yourself out and figure out what's a good companion, that's great. I know that there's some great like marigolds with tomatoes, and that's nice. Do I think that's the be all end all? No, it's actually pretty low on my priority list. I don't feel like it makes a big enough difference as long as you have the nutrition in the soil. And if you have the lighting right, if you have the water right. So there you go. I might get some hate for that, but companion planting is nice, but I do not let it dictate what's going to go on in my garden. I like to push the limits and see what I really can do. I learned that from other gardeners, but I think the one that stresses that the most is David the Good, and he's really helping me to think beyond that. And also another one is Paul in the Pacific Northwest, Paul G, I forget his name, and he does the Back to Eden gardening. He does a lot of things you probably wouldn't normally combine, like the potatoes and asparagus, all that underneath apple trees. I think it's important to see people breaking the rules, and so rules are nice, but I think it's also better to just see what nature allows. I think there are a lot of things that you can get away with that are not in books that you typically read about gardening. And in Florida, we have so much rain and so much sun and so much everything that sometimes the plants just don't even mind. They're just so much more in tune with the other elements that they just don't care about what they're next to. Tonight, as I'm putting together a plan, you'll see that I'm not going to count out how many exactly, but I have 6 rows, and I think that we have approximately at least 22 feet to 25 feet, like that might be around the 22 foot range, and this is probably closer to 24 feet out this way. I used to know the measurements, but they're not up here anymore. And then I have a drip line every foot. So my plan is to go with broccoli, cauliflower, squash, and then when the squash was done, I was going to put in green beans, Brussels sprouts, which take a long time, and the cauliflower takes a long time, and then bunching onions. So I've already as you've seen. Put in the short day onions, some here, the rest are in the salsa garden way down there. And I have bunching onions, so that's off my list. Now up front, I already put squash in the ground. I have 3 different types of squash, and so I think I can remove that from my list of what to put up here. So I have the Brussels, like I mentioned. I think I will put down here so they can just be down here, be on water, and I can set it and forget about it. And they can be tall, and there's nothing going to be behind them that they should block the light with. One thing that is I failed to put on my list, and there was a reason for it, because celery is actually right here on my salsa garden list, and that did not go in up there. I used all my space up there just for the onions, the peppers on this left side. So I have to consider a place that I'm going to leave for celery, and it's going to require, celery likes to be put in a block, and it needs, this had almost full sun, you know, full, more like 9 a.m. to about 3 to 4 p.m. So this section would definitely provide me with something like that. The other option is I could have some morning light here, but then I get shade here and I get more morning light here. Like I said, the coop is coming down, but I would hate to put celery in and stunt it. I want it just to have the best chance immediately. So I am really leaning towards probably about 6 drip line holes set aside for celery. So I may, you know, do like here. And like I said, I'm going to block it. That's why. So I'll do some this side, then this side, this side. So I'll have like 4 rows of celery. I was so blown away by changing locations last year with my celery. I've always, for 2 years in a row, I've had celery up in the front because I thought it needed dapple light, and I've always thought it's sort of a water hog. It needs water, so I didn't want to put it in the sun and then have it dry up and so forth. I was totally wrong, and it's, you know, to my amazement, it did amazing in the full sun over here, and it grew the best I've ever had it. So I will never put it in dappled light again. Make sure it's always on water, which this will have. And I'm going to just put it right here. I'm pretty certain that's what I'm going to do. Now I have a little, it's not an issue, but I do have to consider that these peppers are here and they're staying. I'm going to put them all the way in until we get frost. They're not very big. They're not very bushy. So I don't think we're going to have a scenario like I had with tomatoes. So I just have to figure what to put in back here. And it can be taller. Perhaps this is the best place to put my Brussels, right? Expect, maybe that's point number 5, 4, 5, whatever. Expect some shifting. Sometimes I wish I had these like little pieces and kind of make like a board of my garden and then shuffle around the pieces. I homeschooled my boys for 17 years, and we used to have little mathematic game things like that for them to play with to understand fractions. And gosh, wouldn't that be a cool idea if that one day came up as a plan for gardeners, to have puzzle pieces of your garden and vegetables, and then you just shift them around on the board every year. Hey, wait, don't anybody steal that idea. I think that might sell. So yeah, maybe that's better, right? Maybe I should put the Brussels back there. They take forever, at least until April. And by then I'll have some pineapple baby starts, and you don't touch them anyhow. I fertilize them once in like February, and that's it. So maybe celery down there, Brussels back here. We'll keep the peppers in place. And then what? What do you guys think next? Okay, then we should have what's left on our list. Okay, broccoli, cauliflower. I don't have cabbage on here, but it's cabbage. Cabbage is missing, but it should be in there. So, let's see. I think they're pretty much all the same height. Maybe broccoli's a little taller. It will definitely flower out taller. I don't know about you guys, but I love to let my broccoli go to flowers and draw in the bees for the next spring season. So I think I will probably put the Brussels here. Sorry. Broccoli. I think I will put the broccoli here. Yes. And so then that just leaves these two and some of this. I did mention Swiss chard. And now Swiss chard is definitely going to be the shortest, I think. So maybe we'll, at least down on this end, put in, I'm going to also put Swiss chard up front too, but I think I'm going to trial some in the sun and some in dapple light. And I think that'll be perfect right there for Swiss chard. I don't know what I'll put here. I've got to research maybe what I might put. This is so shady until that coop comes down. This whole big block right here gets nothing but shade. Especially in winter. If it were summer, the sun comes up and hits it more directly here instead of from here. Does that make sense? Like sun beams going downward versus to the side. So I don't think it matters then if I do broccoli or cauliflower either row. The last thing, I just remembered, the last thing you should consider are the bugs. Now, we don't have many bugs in a Florida winter. In fact, it's rather nice. And in my yard in particular, I don't get really any broccoli pressure until we have some warm snaps in spring, and then I may have some aphid damage. Cauliflower, I don't know that I've ever had aphid damage until they're like ready to harvest. Cabbage, now I have had slugs, and I still have a slug problem up there. I think I'm going to buy something called Sluggo and put some Sluggo up there. I hear that works pretty good for slugs. So maybe, okay, just thinking aloud, okay? Don't hold me to it, but I think slugs could maybe also be a problem with Swiss chard. So then maybe I should put in the cauliflower. Oh, that works too. Okay, so cauliflower needs shade to keep the heads white, and then we'll put cabbage here. And if we have a slug issue, we have it, and hopefully it doesn't travel all the way to Swiss chard. And then we'll put in broccoli. The peppers will stay till frost. And then we'll have Brussels. And that'll give me a little gap here for when the Brussels are big and need harvesting through the spring. I think we should do that. And then the celery in the back. And I still have room back there, but I could just continue the vegetables all the way to the back there. That's a good plan. And then I still have my onions. Oh, I have leeks. I need leeks. Ooh, I need leeks, which also need to stay white. There you go. That's what we're doing. We're putting leeks here, cauliflower, and here Swiss chard. I think we've just about covered everything in my list. The eggplants, tomatoes, peppers, and other onions are up in salsa. The buttercup, and I still have some beans in the north garden. I have the Alabama butter beans and the black-eyed peas. That'll come off, and I will replace that with sweet peas and sugar snap peas and whatever else like that. I didn't put green beans in up there, and I did a half corn, but I did put a lot of squash in there. And then, of course, the south garden will be the same. We're going to do some serious reworking and amending of the soil up there, and I got to pull sweet potatoes. So I think that looks pretty good, you guys. So these are my starts where I only put like 9 of each seed in here, and it is very spotty, I will tell you. But this will be sort of like a first sowing, and then I can go ahead and start from seed out here, and then we'll have, you know, like the second sowing and third sowing. I think that'll be good. I'll put all my goodies, the little bit bigger ones, up this way. Oh, that'll be nice. Yes, and they'll be closest to the water line. They'll get that first and get going, get up and going. We're just now getting, we had a night of 68 degrees 2 nights ago, and last night I think was also around 68. And then we're gonna have a couple warmer nights, and then we'll be back at 70 and below. And I think that is our last warm set of nights, and then we'll just be going like crazy. And maybe if I have a little extra room, I'll put some cilantro up here too. Otherwise it'll go, it could potentially go just in the lettuce area. I do put a lot of herbs up there. I just want to make it clear that this garden does not have to supply us with enough broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower for the entire year. This is just what's going to feed us this fall. And then I like to take more broccoli and cauliflower and seed it in about January, around the 1st, right, when we're on holiday break. And then I let those germinate, and then I put them on that north garden, and that they will take over the place where the butternut squash is right now. But that's where they will grow for spring, and that clears up this garden for whatever I choose to put in here in spring of 22. I hope you guys weren't too bored with me talking out loud and thinking things through, and maybe it'll spur some ideas for you guys as well as you plan out your next and future gardens. Take care, you guys. God bless, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.